Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. The way politics is shaping up in this kind of 2026 to 2030 alignment, you couldn't see a miscalculation more clear than Gavin Newsom going to Davos and trying to create a platform for himself. He's been trying hard to create a presidential platform for a few years, even to the point of where he joined Truth Social to try and reach out to Trump supporters in an attempt to build a moderate base of support. And I think that's the conventional political thinking that Democrats are struggling with. We see it in Ohio with Amy Acton trying to run for governor, and other places. They've managed to slide a few Democrats under the door. They have recently in Virginia. But the buildup, obviously, is the MAGA Republican candidates that are going to get the best traction and make the most sense. When you have independents and moderate Democrats kind of wanting to push back against government spending that they kind of like, and they see the MAGA movement as intruding on that because maybe you have a disproportionate amount of people on government services or government employment. The independents lean towards the Democrats. You'll see, like what we saw in Virginia, where they'll try a Republican moderate or go with what they think is a moderate Democrat. It turns out to be an outright socialist, crazy lunatic, communist type. It's hard to tell, and that's certainly the problem with Gavin Newsom is California went full communist, overtly so, and a lot of their base supporters are the Ocasio-Cortez types, the anti-ICE, the anti-Trump. And the problem is, and if you're Gavin Newsom, Trump is setting the standard in politics. He's the new standard, the new way of doing it. And those who are successful, such as the case we have in Ohio with Vivek Ramaswamy versus Amy Acton. Amy Acton is the lockdown lady who, when Democrats thought the platform was going to be government having a big parental hug, and parental government is the communist warm blanket that Mamdani talks about. It's certainly what they have going on with Xi Jinping in China, is warm blanket communism, where when you feel insecure about the world and you want the government to kind of be that nice blanket that warms you up and you cuddle up next to a fire with it. That's the idea that a lot of these radical leftists have about communism. Gavin Newsom has a problem that he's associated with those types of people. And he's like Amy Acton, who's running for governor in Ohio. He was the lockdown king. She was the lockdown lady. And when you're trying to put that past behind you, it's difficult to build a platform. And no one was more, it was really pathetic because I've watched these Davos meetings for years, and he came out to try and be a Democrat version of Trump by talking about knee pads and, as if people had to service Trump. And then he really kind of revealed what he feels about Trump, which is, Trump's a T-Rex. And if he wants to mate with you, he's going to. That was not a strong position, even if it's psychologically indicative of what he really thinks. Behind the scenes at Davos, Gavin Newsom was trumpeted up with Trump, making light, like a lot of people do when they are in the presence of powerful people. They chum it up. They say one thing in front of the camera for their audience, for their base, and then behind the scenes, they actually admire him. And Gavin Newsom let out too much about what he really thinks of Trump, which is are appealing attributes that voters can rally behind. So even if you're a moderate or an independent, or some of these union left type of Republican voter, they can at least rally behind a Trump that speaks his mind and is authentic. And then when Gavin Newsom tried to do it with a platform at Davos, he got grossly overshadowed in ways that certainly weren't part of his plan. He wanted to go there and create a platform, show that he was a global leader, and then he ended up just looking like a frustrated political figure who was trying to reinvent himself, but Trump was blotting out all the light, and Trump was he sucked the oxygen out of the entire Davos event, which is good. It's what we expect. I'm not as I say all the time, I'm not a fan of the Davos World Economic Forum people. But I watch them every year, and I watch all the characters. I'm not a Larry Fink fan. Larry Fink was kind of the host this year, the BlackRock guy, and I've said many times that BlackRock was completely carried by the Fed. It's bad monetary policy. You got a lot of people who have been shaking the stick and trying to leverage finance in their direction. So there's a lot of tyrannical characters involved with the World Economic Forum. And Gavin Newsom went there to think that he was going to create a presidential platform for 2028. And he ended up really looking meager. And he's the best that the Democrats have. Just as in Ohio, and I put them all together because he's a governor of California. Amy Acton wants to be the governor of California. Both of them, when they had the levers of power in their corner. In Amy Acton's case, she was the head of health for the DeWine administration in Ohio, for a Republican governor, as they say, even though he behaves like a Democrat most of the time. The feeling was this is a bipartisan administration, the DeWine administration, and Amy Acton, who was a really overt abortion supporter, was on an anti-abortion campaign. And that DeWine could work with Democrats, and that was the point. Now she's using that as a platform to try to launch herself. But when she had the authority, she was the lockdown lady. She locked down Ohio. Gavin Newsom locked down California, and these blue state administrator types, whether they're governors or health directors, behaved poorly during COVID, and they showed their cards, and they can't get away from it. The fires in California still have not been solved. There's a lot of people who believe that these fires were deliberately started so that you can have land grabs. We've seen, especially from the hedge fund types out there, that Larry Fink certainly associates with, and that's what the World Economic Forum people have become known for, is their radical leftist tactics. That even the people who started the fires, the arson cases in California that burnt down very wealthy communities that have not been rebuilt. Gavin Newsom has that hanging around his neck because you have climate radicals that think that the ground should be returned to the indigenous people, and the best way to do that is to destroy the neighborhoods that were built on them. And then you have people who would love to buy that land, who would clearly hire degenerates, homeless types, or whoever they can get their hands on to go out and start fires. So you depreciate the value of the land, and you could buy it for nothing and redevelop it into what you want. A new city development. That's a lot of what people think happened in Hawaii. When you have these massive arsonists, and there's your fire departments are understaffed and not prepared for the tragedies, and the fires burn entire neighborhoods out, and especially in this case in California, celebrity class, who are going to be the people who are going to rally to Gavin Newsom's cause because he let their homes burn. He was ill prepared for a tragedy, and then on the conspiracy side, he may have even known that some of these powerful financial characters actually wanted to burn out entire communities so they could redevelop the land, either for progressive political beliefs of indigenous habitation, or for a change state and a reset of the economic development of that territory from some neighborhoods into another land use development. Most logically, the fantasies that a lot of these developers have about smart cities. And the best way to get rid of the previous infrastructure is just to destroy it and start over, like erasing everything off a board, all the previous work. Gavin Newsom has all these weights around his neck that he has to overcome, and he's not going to be able to do it. And he went to Davos hoping to shake all that off, and all he did was put more weights on his neck because he showed that he went there to try and be Trump-like, and he came out to be a Trump bootlicker. And the knee pad discussion that he had was not good because it almost comes across Freudian, as if that's his position and what he would like to do with Trump. And then the way he chummied it up behind the scenes when the cameras weren't on further entrenched that belief. So Gavin Newsom didn't do himself any favors for 2028. He's so far, when you look at the radical Marxist, communist, socialists that are lining up to represent the Democrat Party going forward in subsequent elections, and Gavin Newsom is supposed to be the moderate that will be able to reach across and try and pull away some Republican voters or MAGA independent voters. He wasn't able to do that at all, and it blew up in his face at Davos, and that's pretty much where his campaign's going to go. He's not going to get any national appeal or international appeal based on his performance when he's in a room with Trump. And I think that says a lot about where Democrats are in this upcoming election. They're definitely not prepared. For all the Republicans out there who are concerned about the midterms, I mean, you have to be concerned about everything. You have to listen to the numbers that are being reported by pollsters. But logically, when you look at the Amy Acton race in Ohio, you look at the Gavin Newsom attempt to have a national platform, you look at the kind of radicals that got in, like the recent race in the governor for Virginia and other places, Mamdani and New York. They say nice things, they get elected, and then they turn into radical nightmares, and voters remember that. So if you have honest elections, if you can maintain election integrity, the numbers aren't there for Democrats. The numbers aren't there for retaking the House and Senate. You don't want to not show up and have engagement and get cocky on the issue. But in this climate, Republicans, if you can't pull together and find a way to win, find a way to give a winning message, the voters certainly want to vote for a winning message. And Trump certainly gave them that at Davos and took all the air out of Gavin Newsom's sails. There was nothing for him to get traction on at all. And I think that's how you see Democrats lining up for 2026 and through 2028. They really don't have a legitimate platform, and all the fantasies they have of being the liberal Trump and trying to say things they think are going to be clever and get them sound bites like Trump does, they're going to find that those gags don't work for them because they don't have the authenticity that Trump has. And Trump doesn't have the bad track record of trying to put it behind him, such as what happened with COVID. Trump tried to bring people together with COVID. I think that made people took advantage of him a lot because he's a genuinely nice guy, and they took advantage of him not knowing enough about how malicious the medical people can be. But one of those people that took advantage of Trump was Gavin Newsom and Amy Acton and all those people. And people remember how tyrannical they were during those lockdowns, and they're never going to forgive them for it. And they're never going to forgive them for not being prepared for the fires. So knee pad talk and talking about Trump being a T-Rex and he's going to mate with people whether they want it or not. That doesn't show a lot of strength on Gavin Newsom's part, and it was a disaster of a trip for him. But more so a disaster for all the Democrats who have been using progressive politics, especially at the World Economic Forum, to launch these one world ideas of nation building that they assumed was the citizens of the world movement, using the China model to do it, and that's flipping dramatically in the other direction, and Trump's only put a stake in that ground and changed it, I think, forever going forward. And Gavin Newsom was on the backside of that change and wasn't prepared. Good to see, but quite stunning in just how out of touch a lot of the Democrats are And you would think that Gavin Newsom's people would have been able to advise him on a better path and that his political instincts would be better than what they were. But if that's the best they have, they're not even close to being able to win in some of these hard elections. And I think that's a good thing. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.